Headed to ARCHES National Park and wondering about the unique challenges that you might face hiking there? This video is going to go into it and offer some tips to help you make the most of your time. Hey there, I'm Alex from Alex on the Map, and I had some unique learning curves while hiking in ARCHES. I'm definitely more of a mountain girl. I'm used to hiking up in the mountains, so switching up to that desert environment was definitely a change. ARCHES was actually the first place I really learned what it was like to hike in the desert, and I made some major mistakes doing so. I was really good about making sure I packed enough water and hiking early in the morning, but I was not good at my navigational skills and not used to hiking in a place where the trail might be washed out because of rain. I wish I had taken a little bit more time to learn why hiking in the desert is so different than hiking in the mountains, but I did learn a lot and I discovered some tips that were super helpful for me that I am happy to share with you. One thing I will say is if you are planning and hiking both in ARCHES and Canyonlands, that you might want to be separate days instead of trying to fit 2 in 1, just because it is better to get there earlier or in the evening because it can get so hot. Which leads me into my first tip. If you are planning on hiking in the desert, obviously going early in the morning or in the evening is your best option. This area gets so hot, extremely hot. Hundreds of degrees hot in the summer. While Daniel and I chose to go in the fall, that's not what everyone can do considering we're usually all on vacation in the summer. Even in October, we chose to visit in the morning because it would just get really hot, even later in the day. ARCHES requires reservations this year, so getting in before 7 when they are required, I think is actually a really good idea in general. You're also avoiding a lot of the crowds, and it is a very busy park. This seems obvious too, but having the right sun protection is going to be essential when hiking in the desert. I burn super easily, so I made sure I brought along a UV protected long shirt while hiking. While it may not have looked the best, I actually think it kept me from getting super burned and also kept me cooler overall. And make sure you reapply sunscreen often. I would even say maybe as much as 2 hours after heading out on your hike, just because you are likely to sweat off all the sunscreen and it's time to put it back on. Another issue that I saw a lot of visitors have that I didn't deal with but would have been very difficult is not having the right footwear. I thought my hiking boots were a little bit overkill. You could definitely get by with a good pair of trail runners, but you should know that the terrain is going to be very varied and you're going to be dealing with a lot of slick rock, which means it's slippery even when there has been no rain, and it's easy just kind of to slide and skate off. I wore my go-to hiking boots, which I actually have a review of that you can check out, but I would say any pair of waterproof trail runners or hiking boots should do the job. Just probably no sandals or flip-flops. This was the thing I found hardest hiking in ARCHES National Park, was staying on the trail. It's really not super easy sometimes to see where that trail leads, and I would end up following footprints thinking that was the place I was supposed to go, and then it turns out that that was not on the trail at all. And we have to be super careful about staying on the trail in these desert areas because a lot of the soil is microbial, meaning that it is growing, and it's an essential part of keeping the desert fantastic. So the right thing to do is download a map from an app such as AllTrails or Gaia. That made it so much easier for me to find where I was supposed to go and to make sure I was leaving no trace while I did so. This also seems like an obvious one, but being hydrated is key, and drinking water might not just be enough for that as well. Of course, you're gonna wanna make sure you bring plenty of that water with you. I recommend at least a liter for an easy hike, 2 for anything more difficult. And I really make sure that I have enough water compared to how strenuous my hike is going to be and how likely I am to sweat. I also usually pack some electrolytes with me as well that I can throw in my water bottle if I've noticed I'm starting to sweat a lot and lose a lot of that salt. ARCHES is also great because they have a number of refillable water stations around the park, so making sure you have that reusable water bottle ready to go is going to be essential. Another recommendation I have before you start hiking in ARCHES is make sure to check the conditions beforehand. I am so amazed how quickly desert storms move in. They are so fast. It could be beautiful one minute and just pour rain the next. And flash flooding is a real concern in this area, especially if you are in a canyon. So I definitely recommend you check the weather before you plan going hiking, and make sure to ask some locals as well, because they usually have a good idea of what the weather is doing that day. And while it can be very frustrating to be visiting a park like this and you want to enjoy it, if extreme heat is on the weather report, it might be worth it to skip that day. Heat exhaustion is not something to take lightly, so it's usually better to be safe than sorry when dealing with these extreme weather conditions. These are some of my top tips for hiking in Arches National Park, but I've got a few more in a blog post in the description that you're absolutely going to want to check out before you hit the trail. I hope this has been helpful for you when planning your hiking trips to Arches National Park. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button and hit the bell notification for more information on Arches and our other national parks.